Good evening and welcome. Thank you for attending our board meeting. We call this board meeting of the Nelson County Board of Education to order on May 19th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Please join Private Mills with the Kentucky Army National Guard and senior at Thomas Nelson High School as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you guys to all stand for me. Stand up here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you,
job.
guys.
Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. First up on the agenda looks to be section 2, and there looks to be no changes to the agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, we are set.
All right. Next up, section 3 is NTI learning student experience with our team leads.
All right, hello everyone. I am so excited to share sort of our end of the year wrap up from our NTI learning experience. You know, when we were thinking about the best way to sort of close out the 2019-2020 school year, on the Community Brew Live, we did an episode that was called the Impossible Top 10. And we were just thinking about some really cool moments during the year. And so we kind of took the same approach as we made this video for you all tonight. We thought about all of the really incredible moments. Turns out there was a lot more than 10. So we changed up our format a little bit, but we still wanted to reflect back on all of the amazing things and the way our community has really came together over the past 947,000 days for this experience. So without further ado, we're going to play that video for you guys now. Okay, just kidding. I just realized that you will not be able to see it if I was going to play it the way I had planned to play it. So I'm going to present my screen and share this with you in the normal way. This is the beauty of broadcasting, you guys.
Over the past 10 weeks, the Nelson County Schools community has made it a top priority to put people first. The nutrition services team put people first by preparing over 20,000 meals for families in need. Our transportation team traveled over 5,000 miles over NTI days, delivering meals and care packages to families. We put the spotlight on all of those students who are celebrating their promotion years. Schools made shirts, signs, social media posts, and held ceremonies for graduates, ranging from the Early Learning Center to our high school seniors.
Leaders across the district took on the challenge of reimagining possibilities by turning the idea of the traditional classroom on its head. By creating innovative virtual lessons and using the tools available to kids at home, students were offered unique learning experiences focused on content and character. Students had been preparing to present their student gift showcase during the community backpack day before the NTI days occurred. Even with no in-person presentations allowed, students were able to showcase their gifts to leaders, students, and families across the district through YouTube and Facebook Live.
When challenged with a way to stay engaged with our school communities, the Community Brew Live was the answer. With 14,686 views, 54,324 minutes watched, 259 likes, 1,938 comments, and 1,695 posts, we use this platform to innovate and grow within the Nelson County Schools. We plan to continue that conversation and grow with our community with our Summer of Empowerment. Here, leaders and families have access to innovative projects created by other leaders across the district, as well as have the opportunity to connect through our Summer of Empowerment book club.
During this time, we realized more than ever how important it was to be dedicated to our community. Student leaders made sure they were able to continue a tradition of serving their communities, even with social distancing guidelines in place. Celebrating leaders within our school community was a top priority. For Classroom Leader Love Week, video shouts, appreciation posts, and gift deliveries could be seen across the county. We also celebrated those who had milestone years within the district. We promoted literacy within our community with a weekly story time at 2 on Facebook and YouTube Live, as well as literacy scavenger hunts around the community.
Energizing the world throughout this experience was a necessity. We incorporated Wellness Wednesdays, where several leaders across the district promoted the importance of a healthy lifestyle and taught fitness classes to audiences on Facebook and YouTube Live. Schools thought outside the box and came up with creative ways to reach out to their school community members. With parades, online dance parties, and brisk Facebook competitions, schools were able to inspire and lift the spirits of those in our community. Almost ready. Almost ready.
Take your time.
All right, so we just wanted to take some time to update you guys on some of the things that have been happening via NTI, and I really celebrate the work across our district. And we know that there's it's been obviously not normal circumstances, but I think there's still been a lot of great work going on, and really proud to see a lot of that come to life. So I think since the last time we talked, we were able to celebrate our teachers during Leader Love Week. And then the last week, if you got a chance to tune into the Community Brew, I think it was really powerful. We got to talk to about 20 to 30 of our seniors from both high schools and allow them to share some of their experiences in Nelson County schools, and really share some gratitude with people that have been instrumental in their journey. And that was a really cool week last week to get to see that unfold. This week, we are engaging our teachers. We know that we're continuing to we're working this week, and so continuing to think about the questions and themes that we want to see emerge in our schools is important. So we're leveraging the Community Brew this week. We've got some really good conversations that Wes led yesterday and Robin led today, and excited to see that for the next few weeks. And then our plan is to continue the Community Brew this summer in some way. at least probably once a week, maybe in June, and maybe a little bit more often in July. Really just create a space for people to continue to connect together. We know that those are really important for our teachers in our community. So we're excited about the community brew and the life that it's kind of taken on in this new format. We'll go to the next slide, Carla. I think that's me as well. So we're also excited. We kicked off this week our Summer of Empowerment book clubs. We've got several books that people from across our district are leading. Excited to see those book clubs unfold. And so this slide, I think you guys have access to the slide. It's got video intros for the people in our community to listen to. It also has a home base that we'll be using to think through the book clubs. And I would really invite you guys to be a part of those as well. So our intention is to include not just our teachers, but any of the leaders in our school, students, community members, parents, and would love to have you guys a part of any of those book clubs. They meet at different times, so you can see the video intros and look at the home base and get when those book clubs would be meeting. But those are some really powerful books that we feel like are going to be really, really instrumental for us this summer to continue to engage in important conversations. So we're excited about kicking off our Summer of Empowerment Book Club this week, and that's happening every day this week. We're showcasing a few each day.
So the investment that the board decided to make a couple years ago in one-to-one and Chromebook initiative, trying to get hands in the devices of students has really been, in hindsight, really important during this COVID outbreak. So what we've done, Chromebooks went home with kids as they, were released for NTI. And we've decided that the Chromebooks would stay with the kids over the summer, and we're going to continue to support. Parents can call the help desk number, and it generates a ticket if we don't answer, to kind of help them throughout the summer. We feel like this is going to build capacity. There's uncertain future with what's going to happen 3 or 4 months down the road. This kind of gets families used to having the device there at the home, connecting to Wi-Fi and all this stuff that, that comes with a one-to-one initiative. Use a Google Classroom, Google Meet. You're going to have access to the device over the summer. And it provides additional learning opportunities for the students. So they can access learning applications that they use at school, even research things on their own, how-to videos, things like that. So we just continue to support the kids while they're at home.
Thanks, Jesse. Also, if you go back to the Chromebook guide, one of the important pieces was communicating with parents and students a little bit about how to care for their Chromebook during this time. And I think also allowing them to see that they can still access help is so important. We know if a Chromebook's broken, then it's not serving anyone. So thank you to Jesse and your team for leading this process and also allowing our schools to be a part of that mailing process.
Hey everyone. So throughout the extended NTI experience, I have to say our cafe caretakers endured a lot of change and shifts in the usual way that we operate. But with the help of our transportation leaders, we successfully distributed approximately 90,000 meals during this time. We will transition to our summer feeding program at 4 locations, offering meal pickup, and that'll begin June 2nd. Carla, if you go to the next slide. In order to keep our cafe caretakers and our families safe, we're going to continue to provide multiple days worth of meals on Tuesdays. But with that being said, I have to say that the resilience of our cafe caretakers really shine during these past 2 months. And it's really sparked inspiration to continue to adapt to whatever comes in the upcoming weeks, months. So I probably foresee some changes in operations with just kind of waiting to see kind of what happens. But overall, I have to celebrate my team. They have really led this work. They just kind of took it and ran with it and said, okay, this is our challenge right now, and this is what we're going to do. And it really showed that they will do whatever it takes to keep our kiddos fed. So they've been awesome.
Just if I may, to kind of echo what Jessica said, I want to give a shout out to my transportation team as well. As the weeks went on and the uncertainty and the numbers grew, both with positive cases and with students needing meals, these folks just kept showing up every day and hiking down driveways, knocking on doors, and always doing it with a smile. Having the opportunity to drive on a couple of these missions, I guess, just to see the thankfulness from the students and the parents was really a rewarding experience for me and the whole team.
So we also wanted to update you guys a little bit on where we are with graduation. So we're excited to really be able to honor our seniors from all of our high schools on June 12th and June 13th. So our teams at both high schools have been working to create that ceremony and think about what that looks like while maintaining the social distancing guidelines and maintaining all the other CDC and guidelines that have come down from the state. And so we've mailed a save the date card home to all of our families last week on May the 29th. I believe that's next Friday. All of our seniors will be able to come in. They'll be able to get their cap and gowns. They'll be able to get, I think at both high schools, they'll be able to maybe get their stuff from their locker clean out. That'll be part of the process. Then on June 12th and 13th, they'll be able to celebrate in the graduation. We've also been talking the past few weeks, and our both high school principals are speaking with some students about this as well. About what are some other ways that we can honor our seniors that week, in addition to the graduation ceremonies? What are some other things that we can do? So we're in the planning stages of that and beginning to think through what some of that looks like, and we're very excited to be able to do it. Obviously, it's not the way that we wanted to, but I think that we'll be able to create a ceremony both on the 12th and 13th, and then we'll be able to digitally put together a ceremony for our kids, and with some pictures and photographs and those sorts of things that'll really honor their achievements over the last 13 years of their schooling.
Hi guys, so I'm just going to introduce a conversation that's going to have a lot more conversation to it later, but just as the starting conversation of our stages of transition as we move from NTI time into the summer and then into the fall, and what that's going to begin looking like. We are putting together a planning team right now. We know that childcare and day treatment are planned to open. Phase 2 officially opens on Friday, and so they have released childcare centers and day treatment type programs to be open at 33% capacity. So those will be opening. We do anticipate there being a Phase 3 that opens up in mid-July, thus the ability to gather in groups of 50 or more. So we still have to wait on guidance for that, but that is anticipated. So it's been released from the governor's office at this point. And so mid-July, we do intend to have staff collaborations for in-person opportunities, following, of course, the safety rules for healthy at work that the governor's office has released, with an anticipated start date in August. At this point, we're not changing the calendar date, and I think Mr. Bradley may speak more to that, but at this point, we're not changing the date as of today, and hope to ignite as much as we can starting in August. So if you will go to the next slide, Carla. Knowing that we are going to have childcare facilities and day treatment going, there are some healthy and safe procedures that we wanted you to be aware of that we are following, is that we will and can only open at 33% capacity at this point. So that makes about 90 students across the board that's eligible for childcare. So we are going to prioritize enrollment of children of essential workers first. And it will be a first come, first served basis that Teresa may get into in a little bit. And then we know that we have to follow all CDC guidelines, state and local health department guidelines as well, which include the masks and the temperature checks and things. So we are working on those protocols to bring this to life so that our child care programs and our day treatment program can come back together and our kids can come back and see us. So Teresa is going to talk a little bit about childcare and what that looks like over the summer. And then Mr. Webster, Mark, is going to come on and talk about day treatment.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to just present to you all a little bit of an update of what we've been working on during this time. And so, Carla, if you want to go to the next slide for me. So we are keeping our priorities in focus. So this is what we have been really just making sure that our team is ready and geared to go and coming back together and focusing back on what's true at heart for us. And of course, that is going to be our culture of caretaking. My staff are so eager to see their kiddos again that they can't wait. But at the same time, we have to understand that that culture of caretaking doesn't necessarily just mean caring for our kids, but also caring for our families and ourselves at this time during COVID. So we have a lot of training that we are still going through and making sure that we are meeting all those CDC guidelines and preparing ourselves for when the doors can open and taking those precautions. And of course, our student learning support. We want to enrich our students' learning throughout the school year, but also continue that during the summer. We know that during the summertime, it is very important for our students to continue their learning, and that's what we're here for. And also our financial stewardship opportunity to help create that model of financial sustainability. So looking at these three priorities, we have created a timeline. And if Carla, if you want to go to the next slide, you can see here we have started our discussion of where our faculty that is at the ELC, our teaching, our teachers and our instructional assistants, childcare providers, where they're going to go. And so, as you know, the ELC won't have childcare in the facilities, but they're branching out to the 5 elementary schools. Well, during this time, since we have had the time and the availability, the childcare has been able to actually box up their rooms and clean out their rooms and make that transition sooner than we anticipated. So as of right now, our rooms are actually being transitioned out to the elementary schools. So what that allows us to do, instead of what we were going to do where we were going to condense our elementary programs at Cox's Creek and Foster Heights, to be compliant with the CDC guidelines and the ability of that only 33%, we are now able to open those 5 centers this summer. So that will allow our pre-K kiddos to transition to their kindergarten schools and also allow our elementary students to stay in their schools where they left. And I think that will really help caretake for them as well and bring them back in the building and share that excitement with them. So we will not have a summer program at the Early Learning Center this summer. When we do open, it'll open at the 5 elementary schools to help with that transition and caretaking experience. We do anticipate to communicate to families on June 1st. We do have an open enrollment happening right now. There's an online registration that's already been sent out to our families. And part of that online registration does ask, where does the family members work? And so we are able to filter through that system and see who is considered an essential employee. And that's how we can see the first come, first served basis. And then we are geared and prepared and ready to preparing to open up June 15th through the 19th.
I have a question. This is Rebecca. And I'm wondering, what about the children that are young, that won't be going into kindergarten, that still had another, like the pre-K, that had another year at the Early Learning Center? Will they be accepted at the centers, or are they just out of luck and have to find other childcare?
No, ma'am, they will be accepted at the centers if their parents are essential employees.
Right. That's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just a little bit about our day treatment program is our therapeutic partnership with Astra, and it is a daily program that has continued at Astra's offices since we left the NTI, since we left for our extended NTI experiences. And the whole process behind that is for students to continue to work on therapeutic, academic, and social skill interventions throughout the summer months, throughout times that we are on break. So they are currently meeting at Astra. They have complied with those center CDC guidelines already. So our students are operating under an 80% capacity. And they're from all of our different schools. It's not just students from the academy, but it's some of our students from New Haven, from Boston, from Bloomfield, et cetera. So we will have 3 self-contained classrooms when we move back to the academy. Again, Astra has been great in already following the CDC guidelines. We'll have 3 self-contained classrooms of only 8 students, controlled access into the building, with 1 staff member per classroom and an additional staff member that will be there to provide support in and out of that experience. So we've been working with Astra and Sherry and her team to make sure that they have all of the PPE, hand sanitizer, and et cetera. Our kids have already started wearing masks while they're at the center. They have they're doing the social distancing thing inside the classroom, but they are excited to get back to a place that they call home. So we're excited to welcome them back.
So last is we're going to just inform you on the contract with Healthy Kids Clinic. So for the last 2 years, we have partnered with the Healthy Kids Clinic under Cumberland Family Medical. But going into the 2020-2021 school year, they are not going to renew their contract with us. They have faced some financial burdens due to the COVID-19 crisis and thus cannot renew their contract with us. And so for the last week, they have been gathering their materials from our clinics. And starting last week, and then we've met again this week, we have formed a small group to really gather insight on what it looks like to bill for Medicaid, bill insurance, forming a clinic here at the school level or at the district level that serves all schools, but also researching into other providers. And so there's a lot of different avenues, or there's 2 different avenues we can go into, and we need to do some research on what that looks like. So we're going to use really the next couple of weeks really just diving into that. And then we're going to look at contract negotiations for potential partners, whether it be through another agency like Cumberland Family Medical, or whether it be through billing type services, clinic-based in-school health. So there are 2 different options there that we're looking at. And then we hope to bring at the beginning of July the discussion for you guys to have around approving a new service provider for our nurses, because we know in this time we are going to need to have school nurses in our schools when students return. Obviously, there are some protocols that have to be in place regarding contact tracing and testing protocols and different things that must be in place, in addition to the other needs that we have, on a normal basis, not during a pandemic. So we are looking at renewing some kind of nursing services in our schools, but we're forming this team to gather what that looks like. So just wanted to update you on that. And I think we're ready to transition back to you, Jeff.
Right. Thanks so much, you guys. Before we were to move on, I just want to applaud the teams and the work that's been done, not only through the ending this year and all years for that matter, but moving specifically through the summer. It looks like all the activity that I'm seeing from obviously community brew to coagulate with the community, and then, but mostly the Summer of Empowerment excites me the most. As a recent book club that I've been honored to be involved with has just yielded me so much from it. I think that I encourage all who are maybe listening to take advantage of that. It's just so beneficial. Just want to keep giving kudos, really. Thanks for all the graduation planning. The Jesse with the keeping our kids with the tools that they need. With the Chromebook care throughout the summer, and excited to hear about the nursing contract discussions to come up as well. So I won't belabor it anymore. But next being Section 4, Operations Consent Agenda, includes our Treasurer's Report, Bills and Claims, Monthly Financial Report, Balancing Sheet, Fundraisers Requests, and minutes from the previous meeting, Memorandum of Agreement with the University of Kentucky and its addendum. I need a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Motion.
I think that's Ms. Breeding.
It is.
Mr. Jackie, I ask for your vote kindly.
Did Miss Berry second it?
Yeah.
Okay. Aye.
Ms. Berry, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, aye, please.
Aye.
I voted aye as well. Motion carries. Section 5. Personnel notifications.
Just no action required here, just receipt of personnel notifications.
10-4, thank you. 5B, our tentative budget. Ms. Owens.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To briefly review our discussion that we started last meeting with our work session and just go back over some of the information that we provided at that point. Just a reminder that there's really 3 phases of the budget cycle each year, and that is the draft budget, the tentative budget, and the working budget. And so, of course, at this point, we're about midway through this cycle presenting the tentative budget for you tonight, but wanted to reiterate that the tentative budget is just that. It is tentative. There's still a lot of information that we don't have. We don't have our assessment information. We don't have our end of the year attendance data or anything like that. And so it really is an educated guess at this point, but it is still tentative. And we realize that there will be changes made before the working budget. So on the slide, one more, Carla, sorry. Yes, this one. Just wanted to go back to these trends that we've been facing as we've been working through the budgets. And just a reminder of kind of what we've been seeing. Since 2017, we've seen a decrease in SEEK funding of about $3.5 million, and that's mainly due to the growth in assessments that we've experienced in Nelson County. And at the same time, we have had an increase in local tax revenue of about $5 million, but $1 million of that goes directly to our facilities funding. And so we really have had no tangible growth in the general fund in the last 5 years. Those tax growths have only helped compensate for the loss in state funding that we've been experiencing. Right. And so I just wanted to remind us of a few things, pieces of information that are really going to be important in the coming months as we work towards the working budget. And the first is that there was no SEEK increase that provided to districts for this upcoming school year, although it was anticipated. And so we're still going on that $4,000 per base pupil. We've already been told that our tax collections will be delayed. And even in our projections, normally we get those in April, and even those were delayed. So we are aware of that. We are also aware that our collection rates are likely not going to be as high as they usually are. If we normally collected at 97, 98%, we are likely not going to collect at that this year. And so those are things that we're aware of. And then we've heard all kinds of discussions about shortfalls at the state, and yet we don't know at this time how that's going to affect us as a school district. So those are just some of the things that are happening in the background that we are aware of. And then just wanted to come back to this point that we are expecting our revenues for fiscal year 2021 to remain just basically the same as they were for fiscal year 2020. The difference, of course, is that we expect to lose a large chunk of SEEK funding again because our assessments are expected to increase drastically again, and that we know that our tax fund revenues will have to help compensate for that again, but it won't result in an increase in revenue for us. Thankfully, decisions have been made in the past that have allowed us to have a very stable, balanced budget. in the event that this does occur. But we also know that we are facing challenging times where we don't have all the answers. It's not a time to panic. It's not a time to overthink things. We don't have that information. And so we know that the next several months is going to include a lot of discussion, and that we're going to have to revisit some things as we do get that information, to make sure that when we move forward with the working budget, that it is realistic for what we're experiencing at the time. So I've provided you the Munis report. I'm sure you have all had time to review it at this point. It just reiterates what we had presented previously, with $32,100,000 in new funding in the general fund, and expenses the same. And I'm asking tonight for approval of the tentative budget as presented.
Understood. Thank you, Amy. We have reviewed. With that in mind, I do need a motion to approve the 2021 tentative budget as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Rebecca. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jackie. I'm going to assume that you will vote aye, but I'll ask you instead.
Aye.
Miss Berry, please.
Aye.
Miss Breeding, please.
Aye.
McGuire, aye, please.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Ms. Owens, thank you so much. We have an audit contract to consider now, Amy, I assume.
Yes, we do. This, of course, is something that we do have to approve every year. There's a change this year, and I want to draw that to your attention. We have used Stiles and Carter for the past 3 years, and the state does recommend that we change auditors at a minimum of every 5 years. So we did expect to send out an RFP next year to review those contracts. However, Stiles and Carter, who we have been with, is not able to provide this service to us this year. One of their auditors has left, and they've not been able to incorporate the audits that he was responsible for in such a short notice. And so had to do some quick research on short notice, and not all audit firms are able to add a school district at late notice, but I did find an auditor, Barnes and Denick, who has 20 years of experience with Munis and school districts, that they've been doing about 15 school audits per year over the past several years. And they have provided a proposal for us, and I'm asking for approval of that contract with Barnes Denick tonight, with the intention that we will still do an RFP next year, even though we wouldn't be required to, just because this is so late in the game. I want to make sure that we do our due diligence next year.
Understood. That was going to be my next question. Would we still be inclined to?
Not inclined, but probably the best decision, just because this is late notice and we didn't have the chance to really research as much as we would have liked, and to have multiple people showing us what they had to offer.
Sure. The variance in their applications, is it typically fee-based? Or I know the experience must be at a certain level, and it sounds like Barnes and Denick has plenty. But do you see a range of variance in some of the fees that they charge with these RFPs?
The fees are typically a couple $1,000s apart. The fees through Barnes and Denick are a couple $1,000 more than what we were paying for, but I think that it's a very reasonable fee. One thing different about Barnes and Denick will be the way that they present the report at the end of the audit. Their presentation is a little bit more graphic, and a lot more charts and stuff than you've probably seen in the past. I did reach out to a couple districts that they had worked with just to get their feedback on that, and that was actually one of the big things that was liked, is how they present their information to the boards, that it was much more user-friendly, as I guess you would say.
Great to hear.
So I'm looking forward to that part.
Absolutely. I mean, the previous work that's been done is, even although it was excellent, it was very left brain, very, very number oriented, and not based on any type of visual. So I'm sure us lay people will appreciate that variance. With that being said, I need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 audit contract with Barnes and Denick, please.
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Berry motions.
I'll second.
Ms. Breeding has a second. Mr. Jackie, may I have your vote, please?
Could I ask just
couple real quick questions before the vote.
Absolutely, sir.
I was just looking, and Ms. Owens, I just want to make sure. It looks like the majority of the work that Barnes and Ding has done has been in northern Kentucky, a little bit down into central Kentucky districts. Is that just primarily because is it Crescent Hills? Is that located, or Crescent Hills?
Their main office is actually in Cincinnati, but they do have an office in Lexington as well. So even though a lot of theirs has been focused in that northern area, they do have offices in multiple areas in Kentucky.
Okay, well, and not necessarily that the office locations matter a whole lot. I just know sometimes in parts of the state, there isn't an auditor other than one. And I just noticed they were kind of clustered in that northern Kentucky area, it looked like. So that makes sense. The other question, did I read it correctly that the annual cost for this upcoming audit was going to be $19,000?
That is correct.
Okay. And is that fixed? I mean, is there any sort of variables that might come into play on that?
The only way it would go up is if we ask for something in addition to what was required, which we won't. So
Okay. That was all my questions, Mr. Dickerson. So with that, I will vote aye.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berry, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, your vote, please.
Aye.
And Ms. McGuire, please.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Section 5D, property negotiation update, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to update you on our progress as we evaluate the purchase of land. Really, the past 2 weeks, we've started contract negotiations with the owner. We've received a proposed contract for sale from the owner, and we'll potentially move to the board after our attorney reviews that for potential approval in June and July. Additionally, the offer and contract is contingent upon any approvals from the Kentucky Department of Education for purchase. And at this time, that process hasn't been moved forward yet. So we're still looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks before the potential final process comes before you. And just wanted to update you on that process.
Okay, very good. I appreciate it.
I guess I could also add in there, the conversation as we've shared has been going on since January. Been a lot of conversation around the property, and I think the diligence of our team and the diligence of Mr. McKay in evaluating the contract and our work with our finance team is solid, and I think we're in a good place to continue the negotiation process.
Very well. Thank you. 5E, just a bus sale, Mr. Ortiz.
Last month at the April board meeting, the board approved the sale of 7 of our oldest school buses as surplus. We've since listed those with KISTA bus sales, KISTA used bus sales program. KISTA is a nationwide program. Ironically, the winning bid came from Waddell's Recycling, which is about a mile away. Waddell's bid $1,250 per bus, and that's lower than we would like to see, but it's not far off from what we've gotten in the past through bus sales. So these are 19, 20-year-old buses. The fact that they're still usable and we used them as spares up until last year, I think that speaks volumes to the efforts, through our mechanics and our bus drivers, just to take care of our equipment and manage our resources. However, at this time, it's not very financially responsible to keep putting money into these buses. If we use them, we have to keep them up to safety standards. And they're 6 years out of depreciation, and it's just not financially responsible to do that. So we are asking that you accept the bids from Waddell's for $1,250 per bus.
Understood, Jeff. So they stopped, did I hear you correctly, depreciating 6 years ago?
Yes, there's 14 years depreciation.
Understood. What are the main, the biggest expense on these buses, or after they get that old? What are the large hitters, if you expand?
Anything on a bus, is expensive. We had one bus that had transmission issues, and we have robbed that bus of parts. A transmission control module was $2,000. A turbo charger is $1,600. Even a tire is $450. So we have robbed that dead bus as much as we could to keep these buses going, and that has been depleted. So, basically anything other than a light bulb that you put on a bus is $300, $400, $500. And it just doesn't make good sense to keep putting money into those.
Understood. Appreciate that. That being said, I need a motion to accept the bids received through the Kiss the Bus sale in the amount of $1,250 per bus for 6 buses.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie motions.
Second.
Mr. Barda seconds. I'll return to you, Mr. Jackie, for your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Mr. Barda, please.
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Motion
Thank you.
carried. Section 6A, our salary, schedules, and job description update.
So this is a little simpler than last time. I'm asking for approval for one job description and one salary schedule change. And I apologize, these really should have been included last month when we reviewed all of them, but they were still in discussion, and I just missed putting them in. These were part of our ongoing discussions on what technology looks like for the future of our district and expanding the needs of those student leadership coordinators. So on this particular one, we're actually only updating one line, and that's the network administrator line, to make sure that we are that we can compete with other agencies and make sure that we can recruit the right people for that position. And then the other one is the student leadership directors. And that is just a change in days from 200 days per year to 220 days per year. And because as those positions have evolved, we understand that there's a lot more need to have those individuals available through parts of the summer than we originally allotted for. So asking for approval of just those 2 tonight.
Clear. Understood. Thank you for the explanation. I'm going to need a recommended motion to approve the revised salary schedule for technology services and the student leadership director job description is presented. Changes to the technology services salary for network administrator will become effective immediately. Changes to the student leadership director job description will be July 1, 2020.
Motion.
Ms. Green, motions.
I'll second.
Ms. Barda, seconds. Mr. Jackie, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeding, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, aye again.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you for clarifying those, and no sweat on missing them on the last go around. It's a lot we're carrying. Section. Are we on 7? 7A, is this the academy transition?
Yes.
Okay.
So this comes from the conversation that we had at the working session. Just to kind of give a brief overview again, is the initial referral takes place, and then our initial caretaking begins with our team at the academy, as well as our Astra therapeutic partners, visiting and screening students to get even more data as we establish a committee to go through those applications to transition back to us. And then they come into our care with connecting with the family, and they go through an extensive welcoming process that will run cyclical from their time during their entire time with us. So what you can see there is the steps laid out, and then on the next slide, That document in the lower left-hand corner on the first slide and the lower right-hand corner on the second slide is that unifying process that once they reach the goals that have been identified by themselves as well as with the therapeutic partners, we'll reach out to the home school, connect with the family, begin a transition caretaking meeting, as well as graduated transitions back to their home schools, depending on what makes the most sense for students to ensure that they're fully integrated back into their home school. And then after a period of time, usually 6 to 7 weeks, they make a full transition back to their home school to be under their care. And then on the next 2 slides, you can see these are some of our diagnostic criteria that we use. It's not an exhaustive list, but it is a start for us to kind of begin having some of the conversations, both with parents as well as community partners and our home schools for referral. And then on the final slide in this, you can see what it looks like for, back one, Carla. The student profile of success. So we have therapeutic goals that are set, behavioral goals, work-based learning as it's applicable to the student. It's not obviously not applicable to our elementary school students, but it is more applicable to our high school students. And then academic success will begin, once they reach those benchmarks, they'll go back to transition, to begin that transition process back to their home school. So with that, I request and recommend approval for this transition plan.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Webster. Without any further discussion, before ask for a motion to approve the Nelson County School Transition Process for Alternative Education.
Yes, I got a question. I want to know if I assume it can be tweaked if something doesn't go exactly the way it's laid out, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We would make any sort of adjustments that we would need to make sure that we're getting students the care that they need, whether it's shortening the process or lengthening the process.
Okay, but one shoe doesn't fit everyone, so I care about what happens to those students to make sure they get a quality education.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the Nelson County Schools Transition Process for Alternative Education, please.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie motions.
I'll second.
I heard a second from Ms. Breeden. Back to you, Mr. Jackie, for a vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden, please.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, please.
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Webster.
Mr. Jacobson?
Mr. Jackie, you have a question?
No, I just wanted real quick for Mr. Webster. I've watched some of the success stories that the Academy has shared through social media. And also even, for instance, I think it was the success story that you shared with us possibly during the work session at the beginning of the month. The young man that was working at Boone's possibly was getting ready to transition to his real job that he was craving and loving, which, by the way, did he transition to a different job? Do you know?
He has transitioned. I believe that he made that finalized with Busic's construction company. I haven't talked to him directly, but he's been in contact with Mr. Woods and Mr. Wimsett.
Got you. Well, I knew that you had said that his passion was construction, so that's a perfect fit for him. But, the success that you're having, is it 30 plus graduates since just last fall, the start of last fall school year? That's tremendous, that many students in that short of a time. So kudos to you and your staff at the Academy. But most importantly, kudos to the students that have really been putting in the time and recommitting themselves and finding what it is that they enjoy and how to make themselves successful.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Thank you, Mr. Jackie, for your comments and gratitude. Moving on. Section 7B, Ms. Karen Lee for our grant applications.
Hello, Mr. Backlund at Nelson County High School is requesting permission to submit 2 grant applications. They're for $5,000 each that would provide instruments, equipment, and music to the band program.
Something near and dear to my heart. So I have no qualms in asking for a motion from my group to approve the grant applications as presented.
Motion.
Let's provide down motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jackson, seconds. Any further discussion? Shall we play one? Back to you, Mr. Jackson. Your vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry, please. Ms. Berry?
I do believe we've lost Miss Bear.
Diane?
She had to, she stepped off. She texted Carla. They're just going to record it in the minutes.
Okay.
Bueller?
I will kindly ask Ms. Breeding for a vote, please, then.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll vote aye as well. Motion carries. And looks like there's an acceptance of a grant, Section 7C.
Yes, and Foster Heights Elementary has been awarded the Dollar General Summer Literacy Grant in the amount of $2,000. And this will provide a virtual summer reading program in which teacher will be doing some instruction with the students, and then the students will receive books that they will be able to keep and also use in there to build their home library.
Nice. Even more summer awesomeness, I should say. Can I hear a motion to accept these grants as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Breeding motions.
Second.
Mr. Jackie seconds. Back to you, Jackie. Mr. Jackie for vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry is unavailable. I guess we will look for a text from her, and I'll ask Ms. Breeding for your vote.
Aye.
Ms. McGuire, please.
Miss Dye, I think you're muted.
I was. Thank you. Aye.
Excellent. I'll vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Section 8A, the school calendar for 2021. Mr. Bradley.
Thanks again. Carla, if you could click on the link to the calendar. So on our current Nelson County Schools webpage, you'll find this 2020-2021 calendar with an overview of next year. This was approved earlier this year, went through the calendar committee. We could expect to come back to this calendar over the course of the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks as we continue to work collaboratively with districts around the state and our local health department and making sure that we're setting ourselves up for a safe return to school. Currently, as our calendar exists, our first day of school is August 5th. And nothing at this time has changed. Again, over the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, we'll be coming back to this calendar, and we'll have a team of people looking closely at this in collaboration with parents and our community to make sure that we're preparing for a successful start to the next school year. There's been conversations occurring all over the state. There's been emails, messages through social media, news articles, and will continue to be speculation about this. I just wanted to come back to the conversation that as a board, you'll be approving the calendar, any changes to the calendar, and we'll etch those into our upcoming meetings in June and July. We don't expect to make any changes over the course of the next 2 to 4 weeks. However, we do expect by early July to have some more clarity and potentially, as needed, make some shifts to the calendar. So just giving everyone a heads up, this is where we are currently. Obviously, the world is changing fast. And while it is our hope that we start school August 5th, we're also realistic in recognizing that a team of community members and leaders here will be involved in the process for adapting a calendar for the coming year. That's it. It's information only, and just really wanted to share that message as we move into the next few weeks.
Appreciate that, Mr. Bradley. Looking forward to see how it shakes out and for updates as they become known to us. Board calendar work sessions and regular sessions.
So we also, I think, we're not at a point yet to begin coming back together in person, but sometime over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to begin that conversation as a board, as some of the expectations for the health department evolve, and as our needs as a board and the community evolve with them. So this is the current calendar. June 2nd is our next work session, then into June 16th. Notice that there is a 5-week gap there between June 16th and July 21st. That is a significant gap, and it's significant because of the potential need to impact the start of school. There could be a special called meeting that occurs sometime between June 16th and July 21st that would naturally occur. That meeting may be virtual in nature. And just thinking ahead, that's just something to keep our eyes on. Additionally, I think we'll begin the conversation about returning to school in June, and we'll be sharing our plan, and that will be a major focus of conversation over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks. So just want to give you all some solace in knowing that that will be our primary conversation while we'll be doing the work of the district, and our teams locally at the school level are thinking creatively around what that looks like to continue to extend learning through the summer and beyond. I'm confident that with the team of people we have over the course of the next 8 weeks, we're going to have a strong plan in place to return to school in whatever form that takes. So this time there's no changes to the calendar recommended.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments prior to adjournment? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn the regular session of the Nelson County Board of Education.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie motions. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ms. Ward, seconds. Back to you, Mr. Jackie, for a vote.
Aye.
Ms. Berry is unavailable. Ms. Breeding, your vote, please.
Aye.
Ms. Ward, please.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks to everyone.